Hello, welcome back to Trekway again. I'm Trev, that's Gray. This is Star Trek Prodigy Season 2 review. You had the double parter last time, which was absolutely fantastic. Last flight of the Protostar, episode 1 and 2, double part. Double two-parter even. Double parter, that's not a thing.
Yeah, double.
That's not a thing, I just made that up. And it was, we both gave it a 10 out of 10. We thoroughly enjoyed it. Now we've got a couple of standalone episode. And we're doing 13 and 14 today. But before we do that, just quickly, before we start, if you love Star Trek, you want to come and talk Star Trek with us, please come along to our Discord. We have a lot of people in there. It's discord.gg / I said backslash last time, poor me, / Extreme Gaming Podcast, or just search for us on Google, Extreme Gaming Podcast Discord. And it's Extreme Gaming because that's how it started. Main focus on gaming, but it's a bit of everything now. It's gaming, it's Star Trek, it's Gray's podcast as well, which is entertainment based. There's a lot of sci-fi in there and superhero stuff, as well as what's happening in the world of streaming and movies. So yeah, you like any of those subjects, gaming, Star Trek, or entertainment, come along to our Discord and say hi and see how you found us. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, we are available on audio podcasts and platforms wherever you find both of us. We'll be there. And if you're listening to us in the podcast, then you don't want to see our ugly mugs, and that's fine. Come along, see us on YouTube works. If you want. Whatever works for you, exactly, man. But yeah, so
our voices are decent.
Say that again.
I said at least our voices are decent.
Yeah, I guess the mics are okay. Even if this, I apologise if it's a little bit glitchy, guys. Discord's been its usual crap self. So, but yeah, we'll crack on anyway. This one is not a bad episode. It was just, I guess I call it a filler episode again. A Tribble Called Quest, right? A Tribble Called Quest is the name of the title, and it's to do with tribbles. No surprises there at all. Yep. I have a bone to pick with Chakotay. They have full power to this starship now, and the man can't replicate himself in a new uniform. He's still in his tatty clothes from before. Come on, man. What? Is that too much to ask for?
He's really serious about that power draw, man.
No, they're back to full power, Mr. Gray. No excuse.
Well, I think what's really funny, if you think about it, is that so it has holes in it and everything. I get it. But he has to wash it sometimes. I mean, you can't be in the same holy shirt for 10 years. You smell pretty bad by then.
You can if you're a priest.
Yeah. So he doesn't. So not only doesn't replicate a new one, he just sits there and keeps washing the one with the holes in it.
Oh, disgusting. No man.
Yes.
No hygiene at all. The man.
Yeah.
Nah, just a nitpick. It was just amusing. I noticed that. And I was like, come on, man. You've got. I know why you didn't do it before. You didn't have the power. That's fine. So yeah, the crew this time, they have to build a star, a miniature star. That's what powers the proto drive and the Protostar. And they're on the search for bosonite. You've heard of this material before, Gray. Is this a TOS thing, or I'm sure I've heard of this at some point in Star Trek.
If I don't recall, and I didn't look it up either to see if there's some basis in science, but I don't know. First time I heard of it.
I couldn't find it when I searched for it briefly. And it's all right to make things up if there's nothing based in science. That's fine. Just don't do it all the time. They're on the search for this bosonite, and the title of the episode comes up sooner rather than later. This whole planet looks a bit barren, actually, Gray. I thought, like, what's the... And then we see the tribbles really quickly, and we start putting two together. These little tiny adorable tribbles come out, and we see some big ones as well. And we think, you're thinking, what the hell's happened here? These things have got an appetite, and they produce a lot, and they need to keep up the energy. And
I'm going to interrupt you because I just thought of something when we were both talking about bosonite, and I'm going like, where did I hear boson before? And then all of a sudden it dawned on me.
It's a ship
and
position
I
or
just
something,
looked it up to make sure I was right. And there's a Higgs boson particle that came from the particle accelerator that we all know because they finally built it and it works. And basically it's a field that gives mass to other fundamental particles such as electrons and quarks. So there is again another little basis in
Love it.
science where they took the boson particle and decided to make up a new element called bosonite.
This is why I
So
love Star
ding.
Trek, man. This is why I love it. It does this all the time. It doesn't make
Yeah.
shit up like invisible hydrochlorins or whatever they're fucking called, aka the Force. Yes, I've just took the piss out of Star Wars and I don't even care. Um, but
And to
anyway,
give a nod to the science world, which is nice, sit there and go like, hey, it's a real particle, let's make something up on it. And hey,
agreed.
cool.
Quite right, Gray. So, a little bit of logic to it. They need to find this. It's one of the key ingredients to start to creating a miniature star. So they need to get hold of this. And let's say we see these tribbles, and they start small and cute and adorable, but then they start chasing everyone, and they're massive, and to the point where they're going to start eating and crushing everything in sight. And you can see that planet's been ravaged. They've literally, you put two and two together, and
Yeah.
it's confirmed. They've demolished the whole planet. And I think, were they in a carcass at one point as well? I'm sure they were.
They landed right in the middle of a giant carcass of
Yeah,
some
they eat everything. They don't
whatever it
care.
was.
If it's
Yeah.
organic, even slightly, they'll eat it.
Yep.
So yeah, not so cute anymore, as Grace says, because they look adorable when they're small, and then the
Yeah.
big massive ones come out, and they start chasing the crew. They do get out of dodge, but not before poor Zero gets squashed.
I
I'm
know.
like,
I thought, oh my god, his body's gonna be gone now.
game over. I thought game over,
Yeah.
man. Like, it's an organic body. It's not a metallic body at this point. So I thought he's dead.
Yeah.
He's got to be. How do you survive that?
Yeah.
Thankfully he is okay. But his new body is tougher than it looks. A bit rock too. I mean, yeah, like maybe it is a bit like rock, a bit solid and whatnot, and can withstand a lot.
We hope, or everything seems that way.
If Rock had been flattened, she would have been okay. But Zero,
Yeah, but not. Yeah.
Zero did
Well,
pick up a bit of
we
damage.
find out when she gets up, she broke her leg. I mean, he broke her leg.
Yeah.
I'm getting real good with this one. He broke his leg. Thank you. There you go.
I know, as we said before, it's confusing. It sounds like a she,
I know,
but then
I know.
Gwen confirms it's a he. So listen. If we're blaming it on Gwen, if Gwen got it wrong, it's on her, not us.
It's all her fault, not ours.
Yeah, Gwen, that is. But yeah, no, thankfully he's okay, but it's in not dead and crushed, but the leg is a bit mashed up. So, and I know something's going to happen with that at one point. It won't be, it can't go on like that. We knew the body would start failing, Grey, and it's obviously susceptible to damage as well. We now have a Klingon. We have a Klingon. They bump into a Klingon. I can't remember the guy's name. Nor do I really care because it wasn't pivotal to the episode at all.
The doctor.
He is a scientist, yeah. And there's a bird of prey as well. I mean, I wanted to hear unless it was on and I missed it, Gray. I wanted to hear a bit of the Klingon music. You know that. I wanted that. I wanted a bit of that, man.
Yeah, I don't think they did it. If they did, it was we didn't hear it. I don't remember hearing it.
Yeah, but this is the thing. They do musical clues and cues, but they're very subtle sometimes. Like the Voyager theme music, you don't hear it always. You just hear hints of it through the score.
The first few notes or something, and you just kind of like, oh yeah.
Exactly.
But now you've got me curious. I have to go back and see whether there was something that we just didn't notice. Maybe they did play it. But you're right. Most times, many times, when they bring in the Klingons, you always hear the dun, 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 and you saw, oh, okay.
Especially from that era backwards as well. It was cool to see a Klingon again and a bird of prey. My favourite alien starship out with the Federation has always been the Klingon ships. The bird of prey is just classic. And this Klingon is basically there working on tribbles. Because, at first, one of the kids makes a comment about there's a Klingon that's a scientist, or a paraphrase and something like that. They seem surprised, stereotypical, like what? Scientist?
It's like a rare thing to see as an actual Klingon scientist.
And it is.
I was like, yeah.
It's a good point. You don't see many of them, but there has to be some, otherwise, like the species collapses. You need scientists. But yeah, they're working on a cure against their mortal enemy, and he says it with deadpan face. The Klingon, their mortal enemy, the Tribble, and they're all just the kids are just pissing themselves laughing, like, what, those cute little things? Oh, come on, man. And he's very deadpan. He's like, no. And it's actually Worf confirms that in Deep Space Nine in the time travel episode. and they go back
Yeah.
to that. Is it K12 or I was going to say K9? That's a bloody dog. K12 station. Remember that the time travel one
Yeah,
there?
Deep
He's
Space
like,
Nine.
he says
Yeah.
we don't talk about it. They're our sworn enemy of the Empire. Like even worse than the Federation ever were. That's hilarious. I
Well,
find it hilarious.
Chakotay even said, he says the triples almost brought down the Klingon Empire at one point. He goes, and I go like, oh, you know, so it must have been eating up everything, including Klingons. Like,
It's
oh,
we learn a bit more about. Also, this Klingon scientist has got to try and find a way to stop them breeding as fast and slow them basically down, slow their appetite down. He's been sent by Chancellor Martok. Martok is my favourite bloody Klingon outside Worf. I love the guy. He is just, he's a lad's lad. Does that make sense, Gray? He's a lad's lad. You know, him and the boys got on very well. Him and Worf were always like this. And then you had Gowron. Gowron was a bit of an arsehole. I liked him though. Good. He done a good job for me to dislike him. Like they done a good job. It was a fine performance for an actor, a really good character, but he was designed to be an arsehole for you not to like him. But yeah, no, Martok's my guy. And he's Chancellor this time, as we know, he's sent this scientist here to find a way to stop the mighty enemy of the Klingon Empire. He's basically been playing God, trying to, design this kind of virus.
Change them. Yeah.
A retrovirus, I think they call it, to try and slow things down. You liked this angle of involving a Klingon?
Yeah, it was perfect.
Why was that, Gray? Is it because of the whole mortal enemy of the Klingon Empire thing, or what?
Yeah, because ever since the original episode, where the Tribbles met the Klingons for the first time, they hated them. And I don't know if you saw the original episode where the Tribbles first were brought back or first introduced. They squealed when they got near a Klingon, and Kirk actually used them to detect who was a Klingon and who wasn't at the time. And they just rear up and they start acting like they're some kind of a cat on or whatever, and they hate him. So they've kept that vein going the entire time, all the way up to now. So yeah, I thought it was classic that a Klingon had to be involved when we have triples again. So it was pretty neat. I like how they did that.
That was a cracking point, Gray, because I've forgotten that little fact. I just thought that the Tribbles are annoying to any species, but most species just put up with them. But the Klingons have no patience. They're well known for having no patience, right? So we knew that would be a thing. But you're right, yeah, they generally don't like them at all. And they're not intelligent creatures or anything, the Trill, far from it. But obviously, they just don't like that. The Trill are, sorry, the Trill. I don't know where the Trill came from. The Tribbles are basically what cats are to dogs. Like when they see a Klingon, they just like aggressive towards them, and they don't like them at all. I forgot about that point, Gray. That's a very good shout. This, you can tell this episode wasn't as great in terms of very lit. I didn't take down a hell of a lot of notes because there wasn't a lot of interesting stuff going on. The material that the crew need, the Bozanite, is in the middle, and I quote here, or paraphrase at least, in the middle of the Omega Tribble nest. Yes, I said that correctly. The Omega, I'm assuming Omega is in because it was bloody massive. And they're all hiding in this little nest, and that's...
Of course, what they need is always going to be in the center of things like that.
It
couldn't be anywhere else.
What's your translation, Gray?
My translation was big arse Tribble.
They're
That's
huge.
What that means.
They're huge. They
look like they're the size of at least a house or two.
Yeah, that's like I've never seen them like that before. They're supposed to get a bit bigger. They get a bit bigger, but they reproduce more than they get bigger, really, more than anything else.
I can understand why that planet looks like the way it is. If you have a bunch of those giant things rolling around, they must get really hungry.
Well, yeah, there's nothing left on the planet, actually, so maybe they would just die out after a while. That's a good point, actually. I never thought of that.
Well, I remember in the original episode, Trouble Tribbles, way back to us, McCoy said, I got the perfect solution to make them stop reproducing. And then they all go, what? You stop feeding them, they stop reproducing. Oh, duh. Shoot.
And
So that was great.
and don't feed them after midnight as well, or get them wet. Oh, sorry, that's
Yeah,
another
right.
franchise. Um,
Cross them up with the gremlins. Yeah.
as we kind of thought, because we pan back to um, who was it? It
Voyager.
was who was keeping Zero company on the ship? I can't remember. It was Zero's on the
Jankum.
ship. Jack, that's it.
Jankum.
Yeah. Well, they are the two. They're the two people that just are the most distant. They're not the perfect pairing, and you could see that. Jankum's a bit awkward when Zero's talking about his feelings and how vulnerable he feels and whatnot, and the body breaking down. And literally, Zero's walking about with a walking stick because the body's starting to fail. And that really upsets him because he thought he would have more time. We thought that. We thought he'll get towards the end of the season
Yeah.
and then we'll maybe need to do something, but it's breaking down quicker than we first realised. Which does make sense. You had to be on that planet to maintain it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I feel sorry for Zero. I do like this character. You think they're setting up some kind of robotic body for Zero, but we kind of saw that before, did we not? You think they'll just go back to what they had before and Jankum will make it? I think he's alluding to that.
Well, the one scene where they start to mention that, and he alludes to build how he just builds whatever he needs, and then Zero takes his hand, his metal hand, and opens it up, and she's putting her hand over, and she goes, "Yeah, yeah," and he's gonna, and we'll just have to build one, and then Jacob looks like a wink or whatever. So there was something going between the two of them about, yeah, this is something we're gonna have to look at.
Yeah.
So they kind of put it on the back burner for now, but yeah, something's gonna happen. I don't know if that means she's gonna be complete, or he's gonna be completely robotic, or half and half, or what. But I guess we're coming to something. I don't know what, but we'll see.
Well, before the body completely fails, do you not think that Zero needs to get a bit of sexy time to experience this organic feeling and whatnot before the body completely breaks down? And
Right before it fails completely. Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
I want to get laid before my body dies. Come on, god damn it. Uh, yeah,
He has to go to the pleasure planet, wherever that is.
Riser.
Yeah.
It was a kind of, there's a cool little scene between kind of Gwen and Michelle coming up as well, which Gray will tell us about. But I do like the fact that Michelle basically comments to Gwen that I was unaware that Klingons could snore so loud because none of them can get any sleep really, and they've got a little problem on their hands here. Before you talk about the little heart to heart moment, Gray, because Rock at one point sneezed because Rock's the scientist out of all of them, and she sneezes at one point onto the retrovirus samples, and I knew something would come in that because you start seeing things in the petri dish, and it mutates into a little Rock Tribble hybrid, which looks adorable. They spend a minute or two trying to catch this bloody thing. Maybe a bit far fetched, but okay. But tell us about Gray, about the little heart to heart between Gwen and Michelle. I kind of glossed over it a little bit, but you want to talk about it because you're experiencing a Vulcan a little bit more.
She finds, or Gwen founded, or excuse me, Michelle founded Gwen outside, and there she was kind of brooding on stuff, and because she's living under the fact that she could die anytime, if the armband gives out or whatever.
True.
And I think Gwen is, Michelle being a teenage Vulcan, she even told her, she says, well, it's not like I don't feel, it's just, it's different, so there's certain things that I might feel or I might not. And she was explaining all this to her, and I thought it was kind of neat because it actually gives us a little bit of a insight into a teenage Vulcan, we had mentioned last time, that we don't know anything about teenage Vulcans because you've never seen them, ever. For that matter, we never saw a Vulcan baby either, I don't think. So this is kind of neat to see what, and plus she feels like she's part of the family. Like she was even saying, like, I'm thrust in with you guys because I went because it was important that I be with you because that's what Wesley said. So now I'm with you, and it's kind of like she's the being adopted into the family, so to speak. So that was a really nice little scene where there's a little bit of character development. They've been doing that here and there with some of the characters, which is important. You don't have to get it to be too overdramatic, but if you introduce it at the right moments, it really fleshes out the characters and makes you care about them more. because I find that I care about this crew more than I even care about the crew of the Discovery. So that'll kind of tell you right there.
That's not
You
difficult.
know, right? But I'm just saying, if you can feel that way, then
Uh,
they've done their job. You're now into the characters.
we know so much more about the kids and this crew than we ever did of the Discovery crew, and it is a good point. It's very relevant, Gray, because they done such a piss poor job of that, and Discovery really did like barely. They had the odd episode that featured a lot on individual characters, but there was one or two of them,
I like
and
this though. You and I can really whip out the names of the characters now. We care about what's going on with them. We
yeah,
didn't do any of that during Discovery, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 people. That was it. You never had time to care about anybody.
yeah.
It just the show never developed that, which was a shame. But nothing we can do.
You had a little. There was a little TOS episode
Yeah,
callback here as well, Gray, that I must have missed.
another throwback to the Trouble with Tribbles, which was the original episode.
I don't
Again
know how
on
to
TOS.
pronounce it, so that's why I'm not even going to attempt to do so.
What trouble? Oh yeah, Quadrotriticale.
A what now?
So
What now?
okay, well hold on. So Chakotay is piling together bags of grain essentially, and what we learned in the TOS episode that introduced the Tribbles, okay, is that they were transporting a extremely high yield grain to planets that needed it so they could feed their people, and it was called Quadrotriticale. Okay, and what happened when the original episode is that the Tribbles somehow got into these grain bins, and they basically ate all the Quadrotriticale, and of course reproduced like crazy, and that's why you found these things all over the ship. So when he said, "I gathered as much Quadrotriticale as we could find," I'm like, okay, there we go. There was no real reason to have to mention that except that it was a throwback, and that was like one of their favorite foods or whatever, I guess at the time. So it was perfect. It was perfect. So they got all these bags of this Quadrotriticale grain that they're gonna pour all over the place to attract all the Tribbles. So I thought that was really nice that they made a throwback once again. That made sense. So that was cool. Little thing. I knew it right away. As soon as he said Quadrotriticale, I go, oh no, exactly. Okay, that makes sense.
Well done,
Good.
Gray, for picking it up. I did not actually. Fair play. They because of Chakotay's lure, they are able to get the material that they require, the bosonite, and beam out, but they're using transport inhibitors, so they're going to literally take this material and they're going to lure the Tribbles outside, but they eat it far too quickly and then go back inside. Gwen and Dal are still in there with the transport boosters, and they're basically literally a triangle of these boosters around the bosonite, and they're going. The what now?
I said bosonite.
The bosonite. Yeah, that's right.
You said it, yeah.
And they're going to literally beam up a big massive chunk of it in one go, which is very practical. That's the way I would do it as well. None of this mining nonsense. Beam it up in one go. But the Tribbles come in and literally knock these down. They can't. They get the material, but they can't reset it in time to get Gwen and Dal. So it's looking like someone else might get squashed again. To be fair, I did note.
Or they're going to get eaten. One of the two.
Or both, yeah, crushed in and eaten. You never know. I did notice Chakotay at this point is piloting the bird of prey. I found that interesting. Like, who gave him permission to do that? Did he always want a shot of a bird of prey? Is that what's going on here? Like, I don't.
I guess the doctor scientist guy let him do it. And
He'd never let someone that was Federation do that ever, especially Starfleet. No way.
Well, remember they're friends at this time. Number one.
Kinda.
Number two, Chakotay was in the Maquis. So in the Maquis, you had to learn how to fly a bunch of different ships because they used to take them over.
He does what the hell he wants.
So I guess that kind of worked for him. But again, you got to speed things up in an episode, so things happen.
What gave me a little chuckle was just as everyone's about to get munched, Bribble saves the day, and Bribble is the little hybrid Tribble rock gene thing that they got going, little adorable thing. It basically looks like a hedgehog more than anything else, and it saves their bacon by communicating with the Tribbles, like basically saying back down, you don't know what he's saying, but I found that hilarious. And then the Klingon scientists start singing. He literally starts singing. I
Yeah,
found that bit cool actually. It's one of their like war cry songs because they were victorious, kinda, and that's
or
and
the
that
or the opera,
and
whatever.
and that's victory for a Klingon. Right, Klingons would sing songs like that in battle, but this
Hmm.
scientist doesn't because he's a scientist. So what is his victory? Being able to do what he just done there, rather than stopping these tribbles from doing their thing, getting the material they need, creating the virus that they needed. That's victory for this Klingon. So he's doing his little war dance singing thing. I found that pretty cool. And also little
By the
Gribble.
way, to interrupt a second, did you
Oh,
notice that when the Klingon was going into his thing and he was kind of like beating the ground with his fist, then he gets up and he starts hitting himself in the chest, right? Rock does the same thing along with him.
yeah. Yeah, good
And
point.
that's the camaraderie of scientists. One's a scientist, the other one's a scientist. So he felt he was, this was his Klingon friend now. And so he was doing the thumping chest thing right along with him.
Rock's a she.
Oh, Rock. Yeah, Rock
Poor,
was doing
poor
it.
Greg gets confused. He still says he to his dog sometimes.
I know. It's just like
Too many. There should just be one sex on the planet. Make like Gray's life a lot easier.
That's probably worse.
This he she business, like two sexes
Yeah, Rock,
is
she,
two
Rock and
sexes
Well,
on
you
the
gotta
planet.
admit, the name Rock sounds like Rocky Balboa or
Two,
something. So
two,
you think
two sexes on the planet is too much for Gray. Too much.
They should have named Rock just like they did in the Flintstones. When the girl baby was born, what do they call her? Pebbles.
Pebbles.
So she should have been named Pebbles. There you go.
Sure.
But okay.
Yeah, why not?
We're
Why not?
good.
You saw the little critter, aka Bribble, saving him a mile away. I didn't. I must admit, actually.
Oh, I did. In fact, as soon as he was created, I said, this little guy is going to be doing something important. And the first thing I could think of in the back of my head was he's going to talk to these tribbles somewhere. Now, I didn't know it was going to come out to be like it did. But then as soon as I saw that there was looking like there was no other way this is going to happen, I'm going, she's going to definitely come forward, this little critter, and do things. And you see this critter get like, and this little critter was getting pissed off, man. She's like, she comes down there and starts like cussing him out or something.
Yeah,
like,
it's almost like getting them into trouble and telling them off.
Yeah, and then they're all just going like, okay, we'll back off, literally, and they start rolling backwards.
Those comical moments in it, it's fair play. The retrovirus, the Klingon scientist is able to like work this out and get it to do its thing in the tribbles, and the crew are then able to build their star. Now, yeah, it's just a nitpick, Gray, but considering I didn't get this a high score this episode, seemed a bit too easy. I mean, like, I know this is Star Trek's in the future, but it's kids, it's last minute. You don't just willy-nilly build a star, even in Star Trek, even in an advanced ship, even in a kid show that's only 22 minutes long. I thought that was a bit far-fetched, mate. But I get they had to do it for story purposes, so whatever, I guess.
Yeah, they definitely kind of just breezed over some of that, but yeah.
It should have been a couple of episodes long. Grab the materials in the first episode, that episode. Then you can make another episode of. It could be a B plot, so there's another plot beside it. Something happens, a bit like the Cracked Mirror episode we're going to talk about after, where they try to achieve something, but it's never straightforward, and they have to get to their destination the hard way or achieve the thing they're trying to achieve in a difficult roundabout kind of way. I would have done that in another episode. It would have been a bit more believable, spending the whole episode trying to create this star and do certain things, and that's a good filler episode potentially. Anyway,
yeah, but you know what? But a lot of times you and I say all it takes is maybe a line or two of writing. To be honest with you, what they could have done is they could have just made a captain's log entry, and they could have said, after acquiring the bosunite, it took weeks, but we finally were able to build our star, and that's all they had to say. So now it took weeks.
Who's captain's log though? It says Dal or Chakotay, which I'll get to in the next episode.
Either captain's log or personal log. Either way. But they could have just made a log entry and said more or less what I just said, and that would have solved everything right there. Boom. Okay, and we would have all accepted it, going like, oh, okay, so it did take a little while to do, even though they didn't show that per se.
What did you give this out of 10, Lindgray, and why?
I gave it a 7.5. I thought it was worthy of a little bit better than a 7. But I don't know if I wanted to go a whole 8. And again, I probably went that way because a little bit, because the tribbles are cool, the Klingons were getting involved was great, and the throwback to the TOS was a little capper. So I figured, all
Okay.
right, 7.5. That's cool. It was a nice adventure within the grander adventure, and like I said, it's always nice seeing a Tribble. So now that makes like one, two, three. I think this is the fourth Tribble episode
In the
because
whole of
they
Star
had one
Trek.
Tribble. Yeah, because they had one. The
Nah, more
first
than
one was
that.
in TOS. The second one was in the animated series, TOS animated series. The third was, I think, the DS9 episode, right? And then this would be the fourth. So I'm pretty sure it's only
Not
four. I'd
about
have to
that.
do a little research,
Okay.
but because I don't remember, Tribbles never popped up in Voyager or anything.
Right. Okay.
So now in books, I think the Tribbles
Not
popped up a few
canon.
more times.
Not canon.
No, I understand. I understand. I'm just saying. So, but I think that was about it. But I kind of like how they've taken something that started way back in like the late '60s and have kind of dragged it along through Trek lore in all these different shows, which is kind of
Yeah,
cool.
it's called TOS in general. They're still giving nods to even though the older Trek shows in general. I
And
love
they
that.
really should. If you want, your fan base is very big, very, very long, and very wide, and very dedicated. So when you throw back to something, everybody gets off on that. And they should. That's cool.
Everyone gets off
You
in
know.
that. It's only Star Trek, mate. Steady. Jeez,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
sounded a
yeah.
bit weird. Sorry, I apologise,
But we
people.
always, even when you go to conventions, when they start talking about the throwbacks, everybody starts going, yeah, they start cheering and everything. Whether it's a throwback to DS9 or well, look at what was it, the Lower Decks episode where they devoted the whole thing to DS9.
Oh, they done
That
a
was a
Tribbles
throw.
episode as well. No, the Tribbles have been on 5 or 6 times now, actually. They done a
DS9
Tribble
had the
episode.
one where they went back in time. I don't know if they
Lord
had any
Dex,
other.
Lord Dex had a Tribble episode as well.
Did they? Okay, well then that would make it 5 right
Yeah.
there.
And then
It's
sometimes you
cool.
get a passing scene where you have the Tribbles just for a little moment, like a pet, like an Easter egg thing. It's
Yeah,
not based around them,
yeah.
so there's probably been around. They've been around more times. Anyway, great. I know you're short on time, so I need to be conscious of the clock. I gave this
Yep.
6.5 out of 10 because for me it wasn't as good. I could maybe nudge up to 7, but it was okay, which is again not a bad thing. It was a bit of a filler episode, some nice touches like the Klingon, the Bird of Prey. But overall, yeah, not kind of too amazing. But that's okay as long as there's not too many. That I've never been lower than a 6.5 so far, and that's only been once or twice. So, the second
Yeah.
episode we covered was, or we watched was episode 14, which was
Mm-hmm.
Cracked Mirror. Now, I had a idea roughly what was going to happen, Gray, just by the title alone.
Yeah.
The first thing I randomly put down here, they do their proto jump thing to go and catch up with Voyager, and I'm
Yeah.
still trying to figure out how the proto drive is a thing. I mean, I still to this day I think they've never properly explained it, Gray. They've alluded to it and they've touched upon it, but they've never properly actually told you what it's about. For me, it's just fast warp drive. But the thing is, warp drive, we're already at the limits of warp drive. We are. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong there. 9.9999. You can't go faster than that because then you hit warp 10 and you're everywhere at once. We are pretty much at the efficiency, the top end of warp. And now we've got the Protostar, which is even faster warp. But
It has to be because
faster warp is transwarp. So I don't like this.
yeah, but I
Not
don't think but proto drive is actually outside of warp because they don't term it as being a type of warp drive. It's a whole different propulsion. Because
no,
because remember
they
when
call
Jank,
it proto warp. They not call it proto warp, or am I making it up?
I don't think they call it
Proto
proto
jump.
warp. I think
Maybe.
proto something, but I don't think it was warp. But
Okay.
but Jankum even said he goes like or when they mentioned that to get to the Voyager it's gonna be 3,000 light years, and then there was a personal log or some kind of log entry, and they said but now that we have the proto drive back, we'll cut that time down to nothing, and so well it ain't warp, and it's not 9.99 anything. It's a hell of a lot faster. So, and they even said something about that it was cleaving through time and space somehow, or I forget how they described it, but there
Hmm.
was a description a little bit to it. So obviously, it's getting from point A to point B a lot faster, but not by the mycelium network.
No, no. We explained before why you've got to be careful with storytelling in Star Trek, and sometimes you need something like warp drive so you can have the time to tell a story. And if you get from A to B instantly or quickly, it's just not practical. Proto drive is close to that, because they can get anywhere almost too quickly here. And I might be wrong, but I think they talk about coming out of proto warp. I think it is a version of warp. I think I convince it's because they go to warp, and then the thing, it looks like it's shitting something out the back of a starship. The middle part opens and a third engine comes out and starts boosting along, and they start bombing along at kind of top speeds. So I mean, anyway, we get to the nitty gritty another time, but I just find it interesting, this device. But they're up and running. They're going to meet the Voyager. Dal, the whole kid, all the kids are in bridge now. No sign of Chakotay. Dal's been captain again, and I'm thinking, I know what you're going to say, Greg, because you noted it down here and I read it. I'm sorry, it's Chakotay's ship first and foremost. He is a ranked officer. Right. He is a captain. Bloody Dal's a little kid who I like, but he's a little shit sometimes. And you're just trying to you're trying to like back him up here,
okay,
Dal.
But what they could, no, you're right, because I forgot about Chakotay. But what they could have done maybe is Chakotay could have simply just says you have the bridge while he's off doing whatever he's doing, right?
Yeah.
That's
one
totally
line. One line.
Exactly, and they should have dropped that one in. And you even see him come back with his uniform on, so it was kind of like he spent time, with the replicator to make the suit perfect, and he comes out, Looking so probably had Dahl watch the bridge, or be on the bridge, whatever, while he was doing that. So that, but again, another line would have been a wee bit better. People would accept that one.
That's what Holo Janeway does. She looks after the bridge when he's away having a shit shower and a shave. So they do catch up with the Voyager. I must admit, the effect of the Protostar coming out of proto jump warp, whatever we're calling it, is pretty cool. That's a cool kind of boom, a big bang effect. But that might be linked to what actually this episode's about. Actually, the two may be linked, which I found interesting. Little touch of Voyager music in the background as we see Voyager A there, beautiful looking ship. Gray notes that as well, stunning looking starship. They've done really well with Voyager A to keep it looking like Voyager kinda, but improving on it, advancing on it, making it look a bit bigger, better, and more advanced. And then we see Chakotay's come back from his shit shower and shave, or sonic shower. So it's actually 4 S's. When you go for 3 S's, it's a shower, shit, and shave. Not necessarily in that order, but it's the 4 S's: shit, sonic shower, shave. And did I miss it? An S? Anyway, he comes back looking dapper, good, trim, all ready to go. And Dal, man, it's usually jank on the one-liners, but Dal had a cracking one. He just said in a very smarmy kind of voice, he's like, "Ooh, looks like someone's been ready to be sent to the Admiral's ready room." And he's like, "Is it too much? Is it too much?" He's, nah, you're fine. You're looking good for your girlfriend. But it's nice to see him back in a uniform. I'm not a big fan of that era's uniform, by the way. That era of Star Trek uniform, Grey. Not a fan of it. It's not very symmetrical and it's got like funny lines and shit. I'm not a fan of it, but it's nice to see him in uniform, nevertheless.
Yeah. His 4 pips, right there.
That's it, Captain Baby. Holo Janeway is on Bribble watch. Bribble's still there, right? Remember that little guy? She's on, but then she uses the light trick. She literally goes like this, where finger and turns it into a light and starts shining the floor. And the little Bribble goes chasing after it, and then she says, "Like, I think I'm going to have more fun with this than you are." To be fair, I like that, giving her something to do. And then they get back on the ship. They beam on to the ship, and what the hell? It isn't Janeway. It's Admiral Jellicoe that meets them, and they're like, "What the hell?" He's like, Admiral Janeway's dead. She died trying to save Chakotay in the Infinity ship. Everyone's like, okay, what's going on? It's batshit crazy time. The Doctor, though, kind of believes him. Bob Picardo's Doctor, he believes him. He said the kids can explain what's happened. He's like, listen, I believe you. I'm going to try and get you back to Janeway. A universe where Janeway's alive. It's a universe that I want, so I'll try and help you. And then this is my one-liner. This is not the Doctor's at once. I comment here that he's a doctor, not a scientist. Like, what's he trying to do? Like, breaking out of his area of expertise.
Exactly.
But we have to give him something to do. So
you know what I thought about talking about the Doctor for a second? I thought Picardo did a better job as the Doctor with his lines and his acting in these 2 episodes, especially this one, than he did in the previous ones. The previous ones looks like he was still getting used to this voice acting thing because he's
Yeah,
never
we
really
talked about that,
done
didn't
it.
we?
So he sounded a wee bit cardboard, but now he started sounding a lot like his normal self, or the character's normal self. So I think he really kind of has grown into the thing. So he did a good job.
It's a very good point, Gray, actually. I didn't think he sounded quite himself as well, and I get it. He's probably done very little or no voice acting before, so it's a bit alien to him.
Hmm.
But he is starting to find his feet now, which is good, because I want to hear classic Doc back again. I really do. Speaking of random characters coming back from the past, Okana? I think it's Okana you pronounce him. Remember that kind of pirate-looking dodgy geezer from
Yeah,
season 1 that just left
he was
them?
pretty. I liked him. He was a neat little character.
I liked him as well. He was a bit like
Yeah.
a father figure to the kids in a weird kind of way. He's back. Very random. But great as Grey notes here. But interesting is they can do this if they're universe jumping, slipping, and that's
Okay,
a good excuse to get old characters back, Grey, and have some fun in a sandbox, which I really really like here. To be fair. Rock, they split up here. Rock and Zero get off in another deck, and they find themselves on a. It's very TOS themed. I'm
Yeah, it
wondering, is
seemed
this?
like it.
It's the end. Is it the Enterprise? The guy that greets them at the turbo lifts talking about Captain Tuvix, and I'm like, Tuvix, what? But remember him from Voyager? He's back. I
Yeah.
missed the voice, Great. Well, actually, no, I didn't miss the voice. You know here that you think it was maybe George Takei. You can
Well,
see
if it
anything this,
wasn't
but I
George Takei,
think
then they definitely made the voice sound like it because
yeah,
it sounded a lot like him.
it did, didn't it? Actually, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, do you think it was? Like, you said you tried to find something on that. You
I
couldn't see
tried
any
to look it
credits
up.
on them.
I couldn't find a stitch of anything. I looked through the credits carefully. Didn't see his name in there either. So it could have been just somebody kind of imitating. But I gotta believe they threw that in there, on purpose as another little throwback. Because I'm sorry if it wasn't Takei, then it was somebody imitating his voice because it was very recognizable. And he only delivered the short line. He just says, I got to notify Captain Tuvix or whatever. But yeah, it sounded a lot like Sulu. So
It did.
who
It
knows?
did. It did. It would be nice, not little nod. If it's not, it's a damn convenience. I tell you that much.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention the reason they're splitting up is they've got a little plan that they can get to the old. They need to get to the bridge because they can use the deflector to do the whole repairing the split in the fabric of space and time, because it's called cracked mirror because you see a cracked effect of space time right through the middle of the ship, and that's happened in Voyager before. Voyager doesn't seem to have much luck in this. Chakotay comments how that he's been involved in this before. He kind of knows what to do. It was him that kind of helps come up with a plan. He's got prior experience, so he is the man for the job.
Right.
I moaned about this before. I'll mention it again. I'm not a massive fan how Chakotay takes a back seat for quite a few of these things. Again, I'm not just talking about captain and things. He is the adult there. He is a captain. But as the episode goes on, he does take control a bit more. So I was a bit edgy, but I'm willing to let it slide a little bit. Now, I'm glad Gray somewhat agrees with me on that point. And I touched on at the start of this episode, Gray, that we don't know for sure. Actually, no, we do know for sure. Tell a lie. They think the Protostar coming out of its proto jump, right, or proto warp or whatever, is possibly what caused all this to happen. Because I don't even think, I don't even think the kids fully understand how the proto drive works. They kind of allude to that, how it works might it interferes with time a little bit. So by the time, when it comes out of warp, it's caused some kind of effect on the surrounding space, which is already damaged, by the way, because the timelines are kind of breaking down and maybe things are a bit more fragile than normally are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
They basically punch a hole in the fragile reality, is got my theory here. And I think it's that little cool warp boom effect as they come out their jump that causes it. I think that's what Michelle was talking about anyway. I'm not really 100% sure.
I think so. I think it makes sense too.
It does make sense. And say the cracked ice effect across space that we were just talking about, that did look cool. We haven't seen that before in Star Trek. Usually when we have this kind of problem, it looks different. This looked like someone had actually cracked a mirror, hence the episode.
Yeah, like someone got beaten on the mirror, right? They call it the episode being involved with mirrors. It almost looked like somebody tapped it with a hammer, and you see the cracks going.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like
It was a nice little effect. So yeah, like they literally have to go from deck to deck to make their way to where they need to go to. But every kind of deck and level has got a different kind of reality on it. And they beam to another deck in reality, and this time it's the mirror universe, and we see an evil Janeway and Chakotay, and I'm like, guys, come on, like, and the mirror universe again. Gray and I were talking before in Discovery, how they kind of got away with it because it wasn't the mirror universe, but it was because it was the ISS Enterprise, and that wasn't it. It was a mirror ship, but it wasn't in the mirror universe, and I was allowing that. Listen to me, I was allowing that. It was okay, but again, Gray, I know you don't mind this because it's TOS mirror universe, but we agreed as well that if you've done something a few times, stop doing it and doing it too much. Are you letting it slide because it's TOS mirror universe?
Yeah, maybe, but if we were gonna go totally on that theory, then the Borg never should have been in Picard season 3, because the Borg had been overused, by Picard in his other seasons. True. As well as
True.
And it still worked, and it was so good. But to be honest, it was like Borg again, and okay, Borg again.
True.
I'm not knocking it because that's the only nitpick I had on season 3, because it was otherwise it was great. I would almost rather have seen it if it was a new entity as opposed to the Borg, but that's okay. Whatever.
True.
It is what it is. But yeah, I think I agree with you, but I'm just saying that at least it was kind of cool because they were throwing back to different things in TOS and other stuff.
It's we'll get to it in a moment, but it's not TOS themed because it's obviously more Voyager themed than anything, but they've got TOS elements in it coming up in a moment. But Gray notes here, and it's a very good point. Mulgrew and Beltran were definitely having fun with this. What you could tell that they were flexing their acting chops in, like, let's just have a bit of fun and evil little laughs and things. That was just brilliant. I liked that.
Yeah, they were having you could tell they're having a good time. They're just acting real evil and and they're acting very much like the mirror people would act. So I thought that was kind of cool. It was like, okay, you're into it.
They have to try and
I guarantee, what, like it or not, they would love to do an episode of all that. They were just like, oh well. Actors just do that naturally.
They're trying to
get. I get to do that.
They're trying to get information out of the kids, basically. So they turned to the Agonizer. Gray, do you want to tell the people about the Agonizer?
Yeah, when she mentions Agonizer, all of a sudden the bell goes off in my head again. And in the original episode, Mirror Mirror, in the original series way back, they had the Agonizer, and what they would do is they kind of stick you in a booth, and they basically torture you. And they did this in TOS, and so when I heard Agonizer, I go like, oh, okay.
And Discovery,
got that one.
And Discovery in the Mirror Universe Discovery, if you remember, that was a good episode.
Yeah. Huh. So it all kind of connects, when they mention Agonizer, even though it sounds like a funny name, it was true because that's what they did. They tortured you. And I think in Mirror Mirror, it was I'm trying to think of the character that got in there. Oh, it's Chekhov. I think they stuck Chekhov in the Agonizer, and he gets tortured or whatever in this thing, because he can scream really good. He's done that a few times in the original series. He's got the scream that really works. But yeah, so it's kind of cool in a way. For a little throwback again.
It was a nice little nod for sure. But just before they're about to get thrown into the Agonizer, Mirth, who's going to be tortured first, he actually busts up Chakotay, evil Chakotay, pretty well. And you like the WWE moves that Mirth was pulling off here. I must admit, Mirth is some kind
of some real fancy WWE. Next thing I thought he was going to go, oh yeah, or something.
Oh yeah, the Macho Man Randy Savage. I thought a ref was going to come in and do a 3 count. I must admit, Mirth is some character, and they have. It's a kind of cool plan, I guess. It's like, let's get good Chakotay and evil Chakotay and basically change their uniforms over, which is kind of cool. I do love the fact that uh, good Chakotay, dressed up as evil Chakotay, steals a bit of the thulium grease or whatever it was from Jankum's mechanical appendage thing. And he's like, "Hey, don't nick the grease, man! Come on!" And he puts it on his face to turn it into like a goatee. And then Murph does the same as well. And I turned around and I see Murph had just painted this in his face, and it's like fucking evil Murph with a little goatee. And I burst out laughing. I had to watch that a few times. And then I said to Gray before we started, I was like, Gray, you commented in here you weren't a big fan of this. You thought this was dumb, and he had to explain yourself. So explain yourself, Gray.
So the whole fact of Murph putting the grease paint on his face was very funny. I thought that was great. But to go back to the original idea, I think the original idea, putting it on Chakotay, was stupid and dumb. Because first of all, if you put black grease on your face from a distance, and I'm talking like you better be about 25 feet away or whatever, or more, or several meters, whatever, but you wouldn't notice right away. But when you start getting closer, there's no way you can't tell that something's been painted on someone's face.
Great, it's a kid's show. Sorry, that's your line to me.
No, I agree, and that's how they got away with it, because it's a kids show, so they just kind of played along. But I mean, those kind of things only happen in cartoons, man. Thinking, going back to Bugs Bunny or whatever. I mean, they always got away with that kind of stuff. You can't get away with that. And there was times where they were passing by people very close.
Sorry, had to do it.
Perfect. So that was just like, no, come on. You could have come up with something better than this, or I don't know. But it just didn't sit well with me at all. That was the worst part of the whole episode for me. It's just like, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Now, it would have been funny. It would have been funnier to me if Murph did it, but Chakotay didn't. Because then that would make sense, because Murph was goofing around and decided to, look like evil Murph or something.
But there wasn't another Murph. There was only one Murph that wouldn't have worked. It had to be Chakotay.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying that because Murph is goofy anyway sometimes, I would like to have seen him thought about that on his own and done it without Chakotay doing anything.
Instead of copying him.
Right, and I thought that would have been even funnier, to be honest. Because it would be coming just from Murph, and you would expect something like that from Murph. But anyway, that's my one pick on it that I thought was kind of dumb.
He's dead, chum.
Okay. So, evil Janeway almost catches them out, almost rumbles them as they head back to the bridge. Chakotay's kind of leading them. Good Chakotay dressed up as evil Chakotay, leading the prisoners away. Leading them to the bridge as Chakotay's prisoners, but they make their break as evil Janeway actually does get wise to the situation and chases after them, and they make their break and they're going through the corridor that goes through the middle of Cetacean Ops, because this is on Voyager A still, isn't it? And this was ridiculous, hilarious, weird, wonderful, all at the same time. As they're making the break through the corridor, it must have been the mirror universe of Jillian, as all say, the whale. And then you hear literally, I don't know if I was expecting, I'm making a joke of this, Jillian to almost use its fin to hit its comm badge. I know it doesn't have a comm badge.
Oh no, that would have been too much.
Because then you hear evil Jillian going, security alert, security alert. We've got a security alert down here, the kids are on the move and blah blah blah, and then Jan comes like, even the whales are evil.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. I thought the whole thing was great, because we know that they can talk, more or less through the universal translator. So the whale's going like, hey, they're trying to get away, and which is perfect. And so it had to be evil right along with the Terran Empire. They're all
evil Jillian, come on, man, even the whales are getting it tight. Jankum's got a good point. Yeah. Jankum has got a good point, I must admit. The guys do make it to the bridge, of course, but before they can enact their plan, I thought, listen, see, when I first started hearing the noises, and it's a cracked universe and whatnot, I actually thought it was Species 8472 when I heard the noises, man. When I heard the noises, I thought Species 8472, that would have been cool as hell if they brought them out. But it wasn't. It was the Loom. They're coming through the cracks.
And the board.
No, it's not a bloody bad guy party, man. Jesus. The Loom are making their way through the breaks in the universe. And and it's a case, basically that they throw up the shields to try and delay them, but it's the shields to match their phase variants, but that only lasts for so long. They don't have that long to really get going again. You note here, Greg, it was good to see the Loom again, because I'm guessing you're a big fan of the Loom and how...
Well, I think you kind of forgot about him, which is good. That's what they like. Good writing makes you forget about something so they can bring it back in at the last second, and then you're surprised. Yeah. So I wasn't even thinking about the Loom, but then when I heard the noises, I was going like, oh, that's right. And they got to be just hanging out there and probably loving this fact that everything's cracking up, because they get a lot more to eat now, to feed on the timelines. So you knew they had to come back, so that was perfect. They came back just to add to more of the trouble. Sorry about the dog there. So that I thought that was great. But the part that really I laughed about was when Evil Janeway, they literally burst into the bridge because she phased a big hole in the door to go in, and Murph is holding a weapon or whatever he's doing, and she goes, "Drop it, goo bag." That was great. Drop it,
true.
Goo bag.
He is a goo bag. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So I didn't see this coming. Evil Janeway actually kind of gets talked around, like, because literally the Loom are about to come in and munch them all, and I was getting deja vu of I've forgotten the two-parter, Grey, and Voyager, Equinox Part 1 and 2, where those aliens come through the fissures and almost take out Janeway and some of the bridge crew, if you remember from the Voyager series. I was getting deja vu of this as the Loom are coming through the shields and into the bridge. And then the kids are like, listen, you've got to work with us here, because everyone's going to die here. We're not making this up, and she's okay. She starts buying her plan. And what I found, I've never seen this before. She does her part, Evil Janeway, by jumping on to, I don't know, what would you call it, the security console or whatever, and basically the armory station or whatever, and she starts opening fire on the Loom. The Loom are all over the hull, by the way, at this stage, and she's using, this is the second time she's done this. First time it was Good Janeway, now it's this Evil Janeway, and it's like short blasts of the ship's phasers onto the Loom. I've never seen a starship do that before, Gray, with the short controlled fire across its own bow. Have you ever seen that before? Yeah. I've never seen that.
No, but it does make sense though, because if obviously sometimes you could have an enemy, trying to attach itself to your hull. What are you going to do? You have to have a phaser. So these little phasers are trained to do that, and you just see them swivel around and start shooting these things off the hull.
You could have they could have shot. She could have shot bloody holes in the ship. I mean, thankfully she never, but that would have been.
Well, yeah, but I would think that those kind of phasers are the proper level of intelligence that it's not going to do that.
No, it's cool to see.
Anything but the ship.
No problems with it at all. I don't think I've ever seen it before.
I thought it was cool. I mean, maybe that's something that was interesting because it was something that lent itself well to animation. On a cost level, I guess, which is why I say the animation's so good, because you can get away with a lot of stuff. Yeah. So to see that happen was kind of neat. That was different. I was going like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Something different.
At first, you're sitting there going like, it looks goofy, but then when you think about it, you're going like, oh yeah, how else would they do it? So it was cool.
No, okay. Well, it's noticed as well that Evil Janeway and Good Janeway are similar state of mind. Evil Janeway's obviously figured out as well that we have to change the phase variants of the phasers to hit the Loom. You're assuming that anyway. She doesn't say it, but she does it because it's hitting the Loom and it's working a little bit. There is a bit of a short battle on the bridges. The Loom do break through a little bit. And I don't know if they changed the phase variants of the hand phasers, but they seem to be holding them off a little bit. But Gwen gets through, is able to actually, because thing is, they're going to try and hit the button to hit the deflector, to set off the deflector.
The Loom are freezing time.
But Gwen's the only one that can move.
Her band is keeping her active.
Just to know more. She's able to hit the button just in the nick of time, which kind of saves the day. Just to know more. And they all do make it back. This time, the next scene you see is them materializing on the transport pads like they did at the start. But this time, everything is as it should be, Admiral Janeway's there. In fact, you see the Doctor first of all, then Admiral Janeway, and you get a little bit of Voyager Prodigy music, one after the other, which was a nice touch as well. We see the two iconic ships, especially the Voyager A's, sitting beside each other. Really, really cool scene. I'm like you, Gray. I really enjoyed the catch-up scene between Janeway and Chakotay. It was just done perfectly, wasn't it? It was nice, but we never got X-rated Star Trek.
Nah, we got close, but no cigar on the kissy face stuff. You thought it was either going to happen with Janeway and Chakotay or Gwen and Dahl. Neither was. It was almost like they were thinking it, but it didn't go down that way.
They couldn't though. They're two officers on duty.
Come on, no, they were getting so emotional. I mean, what if Janeway gave Chakotay just a little peck on the cheek? It would be pretty harmless.
She's an admiral.
You know,
and she missed her chance.
But it doesn't. But the emotion was so strong, especially on Chakotay's side. So then let Chakotay give her a peck on the cheek. Then
you can't do that to an admiral.
Yeah, but the scene called for it because he got so emotional because it was like, oh my god, and now I really am finally back home, kind of thing. Yeah. And the hell with the protocol bull crap. He could have just pecked the.
It was 10 years for.
Okay. I'm nitpicking again, but it would have been nice.
It was 10 years for Chakotay. It wasn't 10 years for Janeway. So if anyone was going to do it, like Grace said, it would have been Chakotay because it'd been 10 years for him. So he's missed everyone, and obviously they've got a thing.
I can kind of understand that why Dal and Gwen didn't maybe do a peck on the
they
cheek
held
thing.
each other's hands. They grabbed each other's hands.
They've been doing that, which is perfect because they are teenagers. So that kind of sounds somewhat logical. But by the end of the series, though, one of them's got to plant a kiss on the other one. I mean, you just have to, or whatever.
Fair enough. It's
hey, look, man. In the '60s, when they made the original TOS, man, they couldn't even do that. It was like they if they showed too much sexual tension per se, they were just like, oh god, don't do that. Well, I just wanted to give her a kiss. No, you can't do that.
There was a kiss in Star Trek TOS has been on. That was fine. So
I know, and they got away with it because it was a sci-fi story, and the suits were just kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. Go ahead.
It's it's the whole thing between Chakotay and Janeway. Janeway had her chance when they were stuck on that planet with that virus back in Voyager days, right? Yeah. She had her chance, but she couldn't be seen fraternising with an officer. She blew her chance. Chakotay would have been happy. He was up for it, but she said no. So she missed her chance. She's getting no Mackie tonight. Right? So that's it. Tough.
Right, but you gotta agree with me though. In that scene, it was almost like, okay, now the second chance is starting. There's no doubt.
Yeah, they've been through a lot more since then, I guess. So yeah.
So now we'll see as it progresses whether that goes anywhere or not.
Well,
but they definitely opened it up to where like, yeah, they're gonna get back together again.
What did you give this out of 10, Gray?
I kind of went along with my 7.5 again. I might have gone 8, but that grease beard thing just got me nuts.
Nice.
So
and
I had to
safe for
drop
you.
a half a point.
Really, just for
but
that?
I still enjoyed it. Huh?
Just for
'cause
that,
it was
really?
dumb. If you remember, I made a little
It's
note.
one nitpick. You need more than one nitpick to knock down a
but let
point.
me go back on that now. And what did Admiral Janeway see the first time she met Chakotay? And she was being very emotional when she said it. What did she say?
I don't remember. Tell me.
She says, "What's that on your face?"
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, yes.
She said it very kindly and very lovingly. But I'm telling you, so no one noticed but Admiral Janeway. But of course, nobody else noticed that he did that. So they actually just dug themselves a bigger hole by having Janeway make that remark, because now you're going, she noticed, but none of the other dimwits did. It's like, so that's got me even more, nutty.
Great.
But I just said, nah, I can't
it's a
do
kid
it.
show.
But remember, what like you and I have always said, a 7 or more is still good. It's just not a 10 or a 9, but it's still good. So look, I mean, as a series so far, I'm sure you agree. Even though we only have 6 episodes left.
It's been
as
brilliant.
a series, this series is stellar. It's stellar, man.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, it's been.
I mean, it's so good that I probably by the time we finish all this, I'm gonna go back probably and watch season 1 and 2 again at some point. I wouldn't
Wow.
say that with other shows like Discovery. I have no intention, nor do I want to go back and watch anything over again.
Oh,
But I will with this.
did I not tell you we're going to go back and revisit it for my new idea in a series? No? Oh, okay.
Not with me, you're not.
I was only joking, right? Screw you, I'm doing this
I know,
myself
I know,
then.
I know.
I
I
also,
know.
I give this a similar score to Grey, but I don't knock things down for just one nitpick. It has to be several nitpicks. I give it 7 out of 10 because it was better than the last episode. Very difficult to try and get close to that 10 out of 10 from the two-parter. It was a little bit better than before. It was enjoyable to see all these throwbacks as well. So onwards and upwards. We'll be back soon. Now, look, another good reason to join the Discord is Gray and I have a sci-fi night every Tuesday where we watch a couple episodes from Red Dwarf, which if you like Star Trek, you'll probably adore Red Dwarf. And if you don't, check it out. It's basically a comedy version of Star Trek. It's hilarious. And then after, we alternate between the more modern version of Battlestar Galactica and TOS. So we're enjoying that at the moment. So not this Tuesday coming if you're watching. In fact, this will go out a bit. This will go out. This episode when it goes out on the Wednesday, because I'll miss that Tuesday, Gray. So yeah, when you hear this, you watch this. We do have Tuesdays in the Discord where you can come in and just join us. You don't need to say anything, you can sit in there if you want. But we'll wrap it up there. Thank you again very much for coming in, watching, listening, people. And we will see you again soon. Thank you, Greg. Say goodbye to the people for me.
Live long and prosper, everybody. See you next time.
Bye-bye.